Oh, there you go. Just make sure now. Just maybe we can put the lights on if you don't mind. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum, and peace be upon our non-Muslim friends if we have any here tonight. And I wanted to thank Ani Sheikh for this excellent and intensive historical presentation for the history of Palestine and the struggle of the Palestinian people throughout the time. The modern history, maybe I should use that any word. And tonight, present or my part of this event would be to shift the talk a little bit, then from the depressive, frustrating facts, historical facts, to see what we are able to do regarding what we have heard. I'm not sure how many of you have felt the same way, but since October 7, I have personally been feeling very awkward, the least to say. I can't easily say I'm depressed. I have lost a lot of sleep. I've felt helpless at certain stages. There has been moments when I had to deal with my own family members and try to help them reduce their anxiety and frustration. I had to talk to my daughter's school and explain for the teachers what's going on in her life, and ask them to give her some and more understanding to her assignments, and help her to just cope and adjust with whatever is happening, especially the first couple of weeks of the issues. And then after that, I realized myself that I go to sleep in the evening exhausted, tired, and I wake up in the morning more exhausted than before going to sleep at night. And then I realized that there's something going on here. I need to understand what's going on in my life. And then I realized that what I've been teaching or telling my clients when they come to me for anxiety, depression, phobias of certain issues, that there is something bothering you and you need to deal with it. And that is exactly what we could be talking about today. Now, I've run similar sessions at different locations. I did I think one and a couple of weeks ago at McMaster, and I had it run in different other locations, and I'll be having a few upcoming in the upcoming weekends. Now, this is going to be more interactive, and so I will not be presenting materials. There is no slideshows. It's going to be more listening to you, and hopefully by the end of this, we will translate this negative energy, these feelings, negative feelings, into more positive feelings of action that would help us feel, yes, regardless of what is happening, regardless of how bleak, how difficult situation is, there's a lot that we can do, and we can feel good about ourselves being engaged into it. So if I may, just start, asking, how do you feel yourself when, knowing what's happening in Gaza is happening in front of the international community? Anyone would like to share their thoughts or feelings? Yes, sister, go ahead. Helpless. That's a very common feeling that I have heard from so many people. Helpless. Helpless because you feel that there are innocent civilians who are being slaughtered, and it's done, as I said, in front of the international leadership community. And I'm being very precise when I talk about the way in public. It's the leadership community that is playing a very negative role, not the international community. Because if you look around the globe, there are so many demonstrations happening. Oh, Jazakallah khairan. So there are so many demonstrations happening. There's a lot of angry voices around the globe, talking about what's happening and trying to do something about it. So that's a very, normal feeling or legitimate feeling that you have, sister. Who else? Like, what do you have? What's in your mind? Yes, go ahead, please. Unheard. Unheard, yes, exactly, unheard. You feel that, you're unable to make your voice heard. There's a lot happening, and you feel that, wait a minute, I can't, I'm speaking like I'm shouting in the desert. That's how you feel sometimes? Pretty much, yes. What else? Yes, Shaykhuna, please, Uncle.
Seeing this, what is happening all over in Palestine. This first day, started crying in front of Allah the last part of the night.
Yeah,
Woke up and cried in front of Allah. And asked Allah, you are there.
yeah.
These people are your
Creations.
creation. Actually, they are progeny of Rasul.
Sallallahu
They
alaihi
are being slaughtered.
Yes,
They
Uncle.
are being massacred.
Yeah,
Children, women.
yeah.
I cried a lot in front
May Allah, may Allah make it easy. Uncle, I identify with you. I have personally cried a lot. And I noticed that in my own daughter's eyes when I, in the first couple of days, when her mom told me, you got to talk to Mayar, she's not well. Then when I went to talk to her, she was like eyes red and said, what's going on? She said, I can't help it. I was watching social media and I saw a little girl by the age of my younger sister, and I said to myself, this could be Dima, and I was crying because I couldn't do anything for it. So truly, this is very depressing feeling, Uncle. There's a lot of cries and a lot of hurt feelings. What else? Yes, sister, go ahead. Frustrations, of course. Why? That's a point I wanted to highlight and capitalize on. Just before coming here, I was working slash listening, updating myself on the news. And I say it bluntly, I was a fan of CBC. Like on my car, the only radio station that I have to listen to, besides listening to other stuff, is CBC. In the last demonstration downtown Toronto, I could not help myself but yelling at them. And I said to them, you're hypocrites. Your hands are red, literally. And I said to them, don't you have feelings? And what made me more angry is the cameraman was laughing at me when I was very angry and I was very agitated. And I looked at him and I said, I wish I can punch you in the face. Literally, I wish I can release my relieve my anger into something that I don't believe in. But that's exactly what we're seeing. Today they were talking about, there was an event somewhere in Toronto for some Israelis who were, talking about, the captive children and women. And then they were saying, okay, there's a deal going on right now between Israel and Hamas where, Israelis will be releasing children and mom in return to releasing teenagers from Israel prisons. Did you pay attention to the language? So they're contrasting between children and teenagers, as if there's a contrasting between adults and children. Well, why would teenagers or children end up being in Palestine in Israelis jails? Did anyone ask that question? No. And then it goes on the agony, or the language of empathy and sympathy towards what's happening to the Israelis, and nothing is mentioned about the Palestinians. There are infants, there are babies who are born in Israeli jails and who grew up in jails, and they're being treated as prisoners like their own mothers. But that's not brought into the media. So what else? Yes, go ahead. Exactly, heartbroken because they're human beings just like you, regardless of your faith, culture. We're talking about the human values. We're talking about principles. We're talking about like when I look and I stop because I can't. Like each time I start talking about this, I get emotional. And sometimes I cry because these are human beings, regardless. We're not saying that, we're only looking at the suffering of the Palestinians. Yes, of course. I mean, there has been some children who suffered from the Israeli sides, but why we not listening or paying attention to what Guterres said, the president of the United Nations? There has to be, we need to look into the root cause of this. We need to look beyond October 7. So, and so we're able to understand what's happening and what's going on. What else? Let it out. This is your chance. Yeah.
What bothers me the most is the injustice in this world. like
Yeah.
double standards.
Exactly.
Like as Muslims, we condemn like killing children, killing women, older people, but in the other way, like all the national news in the beginning, oh, there was a terrorist attack in Israel. Okay, I understand. If Palestinians kill children, women, yeah, call them terrorists. I agree. As a Muslim, I agree because that's not allowed. 100% not allowed in Islam.
What about 5,000 Palestinian children
Once again,
and over 12,000, civilians?
kids, more than 5,000 women, innocent civilians. They were killed, and oh, please be careful. Do not do it. Try to avoid civilians. Please try and be careful. Really? Like, why do you call this like terrorism? And this is be careful.
Have right to defend
Is that
itself.
fair? It's not.
Yeah.
Like my parents, my sister, right there in Gaza right now.
Yeah.
They, like they call this killing them. No windows, no food, no nothing. They haven't showered
Yeah.
since like the beginning of the war. I tell my mom, start a fire, like cut a tree or something, and oh, we cannot. They're gonna bomb us right away if we do. They're gonna think we have rockets or something in the house. It happens.
Very frustrated, angry feelings of seeing injustice, being exercised and double standard. By the way, I forgot to mention that we need to have the acknowledgement that we are now standing on the land of the indigenous people. And we should have had this declaration presented at the beginning, but maybe the brothers have forgotten. Because when we talk about justice, when we talk about principles, we apply it across the board. I personally have spoken a lot about the indigenous people's rights and their the injustice has been, done to them, and relatively and similarly, we can see a trend. What happened to the indigenous people, the owners of this land we're standing on right now, is called colonization. It's called imperialism. And that's exactly what the Zionist movement was trying to apply in Palestine, saying that there is a land without people, and we're bringing people who have no land to inhabit and establish their livelihood. The same rhetoric and the same false perceptions that were promoted about the indigenous people. When I work at the hospital, I was asked to take a course about the indigenous. So this is part of equity and inclusion, work in the hospital. And I was like, wow, amazing. I never knew these facts because it was not taught to us. You need to dig deep to understand what happened to indigenous people. And after that, I was like going left and right talking about indigenous people. I spoke about them in my Friday ceremony. I talked about them in every occasions I go, because they are going through the same path of injustice or injustice as we are going as Palestinians, and we team up, and that's why you will see them a lot, coming out in the demonstrations that are happening across the, Canada. So yes, indeed, there's injustice. There's bias between reading standards in one way and explain it in a different way. So there are those who have the right to defend themselves, and there are those who are terrorists. There are those who have the right to live in comfort and have comprehensive medical care, and those whose hospitals are being bombed on over their heads, and their infants in incubators will die because the lack of the necessities of their living, which is the oxygen to run, which is run by electricity, which was deprived from hospitals. So of course, this makes you frustrated, makes you angry. What else? Go ahead, sister.
Whenever you like water and have purity of your parents, it feels like there's a feeling of guilt in our heart.
There's a sense of guilt. There's a sense of anger and frustration as well, because you're seeing double standard. We're supposed to be living in a democratic society, governed by democratic governments, which means we need to apply and exercise democratic rules, meaning to say the international community have come up with this joke that is called the United Nation in order for the world to be live in peace and harmony. And now we're seeing pretty much the whole world respecting the United Nation except for the State of Israel. There are many resolutions from the United Nations were ignored. There is the laws of international laws have been, not even paid attention, or they consider it as a joke for the Israeli or defense army. Whatever they have done in Gaza is classified as a genocide. Yet no one is talking about it. No one is paying attention to it. So we're seeing double standard. Of course, sister, I identify with you. This is what, I have every night. I go at the end of the day exhausted, tired. I wanted to enjoy a meal with my family, and I look at the food, I look at my children, and I say, I'm a hypocrite. Seriously. I'm a hypocrite because how can I enjoy a meal? How can I sleep peacefully? How can I put my kids into their bed when I know that the children of Gaza, or the parents of the children of Gaza, are frustrated because they can't even find a place, a safe shelter to sleep in? Forget about the food and all the details. There is no safe place for them to be able to sleep, knowing that when they sleep, they will wake up in the morning. Because potentially, anytime, boom, a bomb could be dropped at them where they were asked to be, so that they can seek safe, and refuge in a place in Gaza. Yeah, you're right, sister. That's a very legitimate feeling. Like, let's shift the tune. Let's change the energy. We live in a democratic society, of course, supposedly. We know that there are moral principles that we're supposed to be governing us, and there are so many who are like you with conscience and awakened conscience. And by the way, if you go outside in these demonstrations happening, and if you walk in the campus, or if you are working like myself, you will see some people stopping you. Hey, can I talk to you for a minute? I said, yes. I want to show my sympathy to you. I wish there's something more I can do for you. I understand what your people are going through. And I fully understand it. And I'm fully, pledging my support to you. These words of empathy are enough for me to make me feel that I'm not standing alone. They're telling me there are people, regardless of their faith, culture, skin of color, they still have morals and principles. They still have values they're governed, they're living with. And those are the people I need to connect with. And do you remember what I said? I'm angry at the international leadership of the world, not the international community. Because I said it, by the way, from day one, from the first week after October 7, I was standing in the member of my masjid and I was yelling and shouting at Doug Ford. And I said, how dare you to silence my sister, Sarah Jama, from speaking the truth and kick her out of the caucus or kick her out of the parliament house. I have yelled many times and shouted at Trudeau and said to him, you're a hypocrite. You're speaking with one, language when you come to the mosque, and then you turn your back and you speak a different language. We're not saying here you should be siding with one faith against the other faith. There's big difference between Judaism and Zionism. I was speaking with my Jewish brother, Rabbi, forgot his last name. Forgive me, I'm not good with names. We both spoke about the right of Palestinians and the Zionist movement. Similar to what was presented earlier, there's big difference between Jews who are living, in New York or living in some of the Muslim countries who sought refuge when they were persecuted in Europe in the Dark Ages. They came to Morocco, they came to Iraq, they came to Syria. Some of them lived and settled in Palestine. So they were perceived as the people of the book, the people of the knowledge, and they were honored in the Quran, that their name was mentioned multiple times. As a matter of the fact, Moses, peace be upon him, is mentioned in the Quran more than Muhammad, peace be upon him, is mentioned. So there's a clear distinction between Zionism and Judaism. We have no problem with Jews, and we're not anti-Semitic. As a matter of fact, we're Semitic ourselves because we come from the same root. But using these labels to intimidate people and silence them and shut their mouth from speaking the truth is not acceptable. So we need to be firm, we need to be vocal, we need to be strong, and we need to stand for our rights and the rights of those who are undermined. We live in democratic, quote unquote, governing or societies. Now, I don't think I surprise you to tell you there are, our governments in Western societies are persuaded by lobby groups. Is that a fact? That's a fact. Like, for instance, I was talking to one of my friends who's a pharmacist. He said to me, yeah, of course. We do have lobby groups within the pharmaceutical industry who, lobby on our behalf for the government. There are lobby groups for farmers, so they are able to get their, business done properly. There are different lobby groups for different industries, as well as there are different lobby groups for political reasons. And we know there is something called the Israeli lobby, both in America, in North America, and in Europe. And the Israeli lobby, unfortunately, is taking advantage of the political environment or the freedom of speech or the system of lobbying and promoting false narratives about what's happening in Palestine. That's why, from day one, we're seeing, 40 babies were beheaded by Palestinians, and then, sorry, we did not, know there was, no authentication to this. Well, as a person of authority of one of the most powerful nations on earth, you gotta be more careful about your emotions and what you say from, what you utter in your mouth. You need to be careful because you're not an average person on the street. You are a person who, have a lot of respect, supposedly, in the international arena. So, now having said that, what are we able to do to promote the truth and justice? يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم والوالدين والأقربين. The Mighty asks us in the Quran to be standing for justice, even if it is to be against our own family members. So if my own brother does something wrong, and it's my obligation and responsibility to say my brother have done wrong and he needs to be liable for his own actions. Period. This is what we believe in. If we see people in any part of the world, are suffering, it's our obligation. It's not a choice for you, by the way. It's not a choice for you. It's an obligation on you to stand for them. And that's why, again, throughout history, up to nowadays, there are many Jews living in Muslim countries. These Jews were not persecuted. They were persecuted in Europe, but they sought refuge in Muslim countries. So, what can we do? I'll give you more minutes. What can we do? Think about it.
Thank you so much.
Allah, tell me about it. That's what we're here for tonight. And I hope that someone is taking notes, because at all the events I go to, we have an action plan at the end and will be posted on the website. Number one. Number one is media. Oh, let's before we go to media, because we're talking about advocacy group, what can we do in terms of advocacy work within our political system? Yes, sister, go ahead.
Know who your MP is.
Excellent. Perfect. There we go. And how long does it take you to do that?
Less than 5 minutes.
And what's the impact of it when your MP or MPP receives, 1,000 or 5,000 emails or phone calls? They have to address them. It's not a choice for them. Yeah.
There's one petition to the Prime Minister and lots of private.
Exactly. So can you let us know more about this petition, so everybody, if did not sign it, will be signing it, and if we did not use our social media to spread it around to make sure that it is signed? See, this is the system. It does not need, it's not rocket science. We're talking about very simple issues. We're talking about MPs, MPPs, our own representatives. We put them in office because of our vote, and we expect them to represent us. So when they do something else, they're not doing their job. So let them be accountable for their own responsibilities, because next time when they run for the election and they say, we turned our back to you, sorry, you will not be getting our vote. Very simple. Are we advocate for, evil plans? No, what we're asking for, and this is what I have been calling for, justice international laws, United Nations resolutions to be applied. That's it. No more, no less. We're not asking for more than that. We're not asking for more than observing the international laws, observing the United Nations resolutions, and standing for justice. So that when you see slaughtering, for instance, civilians, you would not say, well, no, we don't need attitude anymore. We need firm courage and and standing for principles. What else you can do? There are, yeah, go ahead, please. There we go, boycotting. It's very powerful. After all, business is what runs societies. So you need to know where your money is going to, and let your money take an action. It's not gonna kill you or make you lose weight or sleep depressed that night if you don't drink that drink, or you don't buy that thing from that store or that corporation that brags about supporting the Israeli defense force. It's not gonna make you lose anything. You were gonna say something? Beautiful. So number one is advocacy. Number two is education, and number three is media. So let's take it one at a time. Let's finish the advocacy work. There are, alhamdulillah, many advocacy work in our community. Number one, taking the lead, is NCCM, Nancy, Charlie, Mary, because I have difficulty with pronouncing their name clearly. nccm.ca. If you're not part of this organization as an advocacy group, you need to be part of it. If you did not sign up for their social media list, so you'll be updated on their activities, I think you should do so. Why? Because they're working tirelessly around Luck, and I have seen their work into screening what's happening, writing, updating letters so that people like ourselves are able to send them to our representatives in the government and make our voice heard. So if you did not sign up to their email list or WhatsApp list or whatever list, then do it, because this is how you're active politically. If you're able financially to support them, do so, because they need it. Because many of us might not be having the privilege or the time or the expertise to be able to do this advocacy work. So we trust them, we let them, we empower them, because they need our financial support. So if you're a student that don't have financial support, reach out for your contact, let them know that there is an advocacy group that is promoting justice for all those who are undermined from the Muslim community, from across the board, and we need to empower them and support them so they're able to do their work. So this is number one, advocacy work. It's very, very important. I went, to speak to some MPs, and I found these MPs were brainwashed, because someone else was before me, not a few days before me or a few weeks. They were before me, many years, and have done a lot of work into brainwashing. Many of the MPs are people with principles, but they're brainwashed. So we give them the benefit of the doubt and tell them, open your eyes, make your conscience awake, and do not be fooled by propaganda, and look to the truth. That's what we're asking for. Look for the truth. Right. I think number two we will go to, which is media. Media, and I don't think anyone can dispute that, is playing now double standard, and it's making me, and alhamdulillah, so far I have been healthy, no diabetes, no blood pressure. But from October 7 now, I think I have been considering suing CBC. And if anybody wants to join me so we can sue them for what they have caused to us for our health, please let me know so we can file a class suit. And I'm serious about it, because they're so pathetic. I said to them, don't you have children? Don't you have principles? Don't you have morals? As a professional, I have a code of conduct, and I'm governed by it professionally. What is your code of conduct as a journalist? You're supposed to have a mission, a principle, something to live for. Look to the number of journalists who were killed in Palestine so far. 149 so far, or close to 150 people, journalists were killed in this atrocity. Why is this happening? And do we have journalists who are just bragging about, or playing double standard and empowering the aggressors against those who are oppressed? So we need to be mindful of that. And we need to encounter it. Now, if you're yourself is a media savvy or a journalist and know how to speak to those journalists or know how to encounter their, false narrative, please do it. Write to the editors, write to the, through a campaign of advocacy to different media outlets. But what's important right now is your personal phone. Who doesn't have a personal phone? So all of us have personal phones. All my children have personal, phones and whatever Snapchat account, and they have, Instagram. I'm still struggling to log into my Facebook, by the way. So, and if anybody can help me with that, so I need some help with that. But social media is now playing a massive role. Now the mass media is outdated. You guys are the frontline soldiers of media. Don't look into the mass media or to those big corporate because they have lost their credentials. Their credibility is gone completely. If you ask an average person in the US and Canada, they tell you, we don't believe the Firefox. We don't believe CBC anymore. This is it. They lost hope in them. So what we can do alternatively, social media. I know there's a war waged in social media, but they will never win against us. Promote the truth and defeat the false narrative. Social media is very powerful. Use it, utilize it to the fullest. So this is number 2. Number 1 is advocacy work. Number 2 is media. Number 3 is education. Alhamdulillah, the Sheikhna here have done an excellent job to give you the historical perspective about, what the land of Palestine. By the way, historically speaking, the native of Palestine are Al-Kan'aniyin. Al-Kan'aniyin are a tribe from Yemen. They are Arab. They migrated to Yemen, to Palestine, and they've been living there since that time. And over the time, when Ibrahim, peace be upon him, migrated from Iraq because he was persecuted, he sought refuge in Palestine. And the ruler of Palestine at that time was Muwahhid, was Muslim, and he gave him a place to settle in, which is called right now Hebron, Al-Khalil. And then after that, Ibrahim alayhi salam gave birth to Yaqub, to Ishaq, and Ishaq gave birth to Yaqub. And Yaqub after that had 12 children. One of them, Yusuf alayhi salam, migrated to Egypt, and all Bani Israel moved along with him to Egypt. And they lived there for over 600 years, right? And then they came afterward with Moses, peace be upon him, Musa alayhi salam, and they refused to enter the land of Palestine. The long story short, they had ruling in Palestine less than 80 years. You heard that number from before in the media? 80 years syndrome? How many of you have heard of it? Okay, if you do not know anything about it, learn more about it. Israelis know that their ruling, their governing is not going to be last more than 80 years. Historically speaking, this has been a fact, and they're now, reflecting about it. So nevertheless, educate yourself. Be aware of the facts. We're talking about human rights. We're not talking about religion conflicts. We're not talking about, conflict between Jews and, and Muslims or Arabs and Israelis. No. We're talking about morals and principles. Everybody with us is in line with, standing for justice. And that should help us to broaden our base of advocacy. Because as I said, when we go out to demonstrations, the Native are on board with us, the Black are with us, the Tamil are with us, different other groups are with us. We have one common group, one common principle: justice. This is it. This is what we're calling for. We're not calling for anything. All this false propaganda, Arabs wanted to kill Jews and throw them in this. Where did they get that from? You saw the number of villages were destroyed in Palestine. 478, by the way, I think 78 villages out of 500 plus villages were destroyed in Palestine. So what does that mean? The percentage of Jews who are living peacefully with Muslims in Palestine in ancient time or in the early of the last century were 4%, 6% maximum, the maximum statistics. While all of a sudden we're seeing a large proportion of Israelis living in Palestine. Now, go back and analyze the history and look for a practical solution to help apply the resolutions of the United Nations where refugees need to be able to go back, the illegal building of settlements needs to stop, and those illegal settlements needs to be dismantled. We're talking about international laws. We're talking about what agreed upon on principles on all the people living on earth. So, okay, now we have three things to work on. Number one, advocacy work. Number two is media work. Number three is education. What else you can do? Huh?
You want more?
Well, we want people to engage. That's the whole idea. See, this is what I do, by the way, for a living. Yesterday, I had a client who's coming to me with tears in her eyes. She's crying. Her eyes were red. She's down. She's like, and very, bright, professional young woman. At the end of the session, she was walking with her head up and, wow, full of energy. That's what I want to see at the end of this. I know we're living in a very difficult time, but I'm sure all of you will be walking out of here, inshallah, tonight with a lot of hope and optimism and energy that, from this negative energy translated to very positive energy that would make you, I can't wait until I go tomorrow and start, working with my phone and working here and working there and doing this and doing that. Yes.
Demographics.
What do you mean demographics?
When the whole world is supporting the Zionists to build their settlements, and nobody's looking at the people of Jerusalem, nobody's looking at the people of West Bank, and no one is looking at the people.
It's all related to media and advocacy work. Be educated about the history. Yeah.
I mean direct support from the world to these people.
You mean financial support?
In the native land.
Yeah.
So they can
course.
live freely, they can get the right education.
So supporting legal human what do you call it? Legal charitable organization. I know the government of Canada is partnering with some a local organization. I know what you're talking about. I know, but because of the we need to keep it. Yeah, I know, but we're talking about doing things and going along the lines of being able to do much. Yes, so support financially those who are deprived and struggling for their cause. That's number two. Oh, number four now. We're talking number four. Yes, sister. Hit the streets. Unleash your energy. Shout it. Let it out. That, by itself is both therapeutic because it's catharticizing your tense energy, your negative energy, and at the same time, it shows our government and our officials and raise awareness in the public, in the public that there is something going on. When a demonstration of 100 plus people, 100K plus, go outside to Toronto and demonstrate in the streets, people would be saying, "Oh, what's going on here? There must be something going on." If it's not 100 or 200, we're talking about 100K, 100,000 that hit the street 2 weeks ago. I was told it's even more than 100K. So yes, of course, go outside, share, show support and solidarity, express, your anger, your frustration, show the media, show the whole world that there's something wrong going on. Of course, be mindful about your salah, by the way, because I have been talking to the organizers a lot, and it's like, come on, brothers, we need to be able to pray. You say, oh, we can't because of the police, and whatever. So this is something to keep in mind, Yani. So what else you can do? Yeah, sister, go ahead.
Don't just educate yourself, but educate.
Exactly. Move on. Like, I said, you'll be surprised when you learn that, people who you never thought they will be, understanding you, they are. Because, when they watch media, mass media, they know there's something not right. One day you're talking about Palestinians beheading 40 babies. Oh, next day you're saying, oh, no, we did not mean that. One day you're saying, there are, we're bombing hospitals. And you know why we're bombing hospitals? Because there are tunnels underneath it. There is, military bases. And then you watch in the media and they say, okay, well, there's a chart for the names of those, military top, people in the hospital. And turned out that these are the days of the week. Now, what's going to happen? People have lost credibility of mass media. So we need to educate them, give them the true narrative. Let them reach out. It's not, if someone tell you, get lost, sure, that's fine, I'll get lost, no problem. But if you want to hear my narrative, by all means, you can, listen. And you go look for different sources, more authentic sources, like, human rights, reputable organization around the globe who have written so many reports about what's happening in Palestine, and be convinced with it. What else? Yes? Being consistent, never give up. As I said, translate your negative energy into positive energy that would keep you going regardless. Because no matter how sometimes I go there, like I have, by my age, I can't stand for a long time. I have orthotics, all the details. And when I go to demonstrations or when I stand up, talking, I feel like I'm really tired. I said, regardless of how tired I am, it's nothing compared to what the people of us are going through right now. Just let it go. Yeah, I'm gonna keep going. Yeah,
What I meant, really, what happened in our life,
yeah,
there was a huge trend.
yeah. That's a more important issue. Exactly. This is not an October 7 issue. This is not an issue that is gonna be dying afterward. We're talking about human rights. We're talking about rights of people to return. We're talking about refugees. We're talking about stolen land. We're talking about illegal settlements. So this is need to keep going. The notion that people are awakened right now, we should not be nose diving afterwards and say, okay, done deal, let's go back to our normal life. We should continue. You're right, to maintain our advocacy work and our work for applying an justice for these people until they're able to get what they deserve. What about dua, by the way, guys? Come on, why didn't you say it? This is number one. Dua is very powerful, ya akhi. Yes, go ahead.
Something related to that, I think a lot of Christians do actions and that's not close to it, even not bringing. If you're weak people trying to build something that is a strong foundation.
That's right. Be rooted with your own values and beliefs and principles and faith. And what Uncle was saying to you, he gets up every day in the morning in the last third of the night and he cries to Allah Azza wa Jal. This is what Allah wants to hear from you. When the Prophet ﷺ was promised with يَعِدُكُمُ اللَّهُ إِحْدَى الطَّائِفَتَيْنِ أَنَّهَا لَكُمْ, he missed the caravan. He knew for sure that he's getting the victory. Yet he spent the whole night praying to Allah Azza wa Jal. Why? Wants to teach us that dua is the powerful tool you have for success and for prosperity. Dua, to those who are from our non-Muslim friends, supplication and praying. And whether you want to do meditation, whatever you want to do, but do something that can make you rooted in your own beliefs. Yeah, Sheikh Joshua.
Something that I think we all learned about in 2021 was when the significance of the Suez Canal was the ship, I think, got break for like a week or something. Everyone in the whole world was talking about how important this was. Well, enough pressure through protesting in the embassy, writing different letters, and media pressure on a larger scale, media pressure on Egypt. Even if they just said, we're going to close the canal for a week or something, that is just one small thing that really
There is something I heard that's called civil disobedience. Civil disobedience is something that I'm not sure if we're ready. I know that some of our Jewish brothers who are against Zionism have been doing that, going to banks and demonstrating and occupying MPs' offices. Unfortunately, they're able to do it, but if someone of us do it, then that's it. So, but nevertheless, I think you're right. I was last week with a virtual conference with some of the organizers for demonstrations, and the participants actually were not Muslims. Majority of them were not Muslims, and they were saying similar things to what you're saying. Those who were, many of you are young, but I remember when the Gulf War, the war of Iraq was taking place. When CNN was asking made a poll study who are in favor to go for war, no one was in the U.S. in favor to go to war. Why should we go to war in the Gulf, and sacrifice the souls of our own children? It took only less than a week of hard work from CNN to make 78% of people with going to war. So and this brother was saying, these organizers were saying that they lived through the war of Iraq, and because of the demonstrations, he said, not hundreds of thousands, he said, tens of thousands, said hundreds of thousands were out in the streets in different cities. And that's why the Canadian government said, no, we're not going to war. It's because of the demonstrations and the advocacy that was very bold and heavy during that time. And I think we should do similar thing to prevent our own government, our own country, which we feel proud of. Canada is known to be international, international as a peace broker. We're known to be advocate for human rights. Now, this is a big shame on our history. What we're seeing right now is a big shame. So I'm defending my own Canadian values, my own principles as a Canadian. And we need to work on that. We need to awaken the conscience of so many other Canadians with us so they're able to stand up for justice and stand up for our own principles and morals, values as Canadians. Right. I know that it's taking long and we need to wrap it up. So let's, inshallah, summarize and write these down so we can, inshallah, have them as a resolution for you on your website. Number one is advocacy work. Partner with NCCM, Nancy, Charlie, Mary, or there's Justice for All. There's many other advocacy groups you can, partner with and work with. But, as I said, NCCM is someone that I'm familiar with. I know their work, and they're, working, very, very hard to get the cause across. Number two is media. Media is important. Now, if you're able to diffuse the narrative of the mass media and persuade them or change their perspective, alhamdulillah. If not, then use your own social media and you communicate, with others around you to promote the truth and diffuse the false narrative that has been promoted. Number three is education. Be educated about the history, about the cause, and make sure that you're able to promote it, because if you don't know it, you will not be able to promote it. Number four is be active financially if possible. I know many of you might not be able to do that, but whatever, to the best of your ability, be active in supporting the charity work, the advocacy work. Let your money work for you so you're able to save or a life lost that needs a bandage or it needs an antibiotic or it needs whatever it is that can keep them survive and stay alive. Number five, don't give up. Don't give up, because this is not a matter of a cause that happened for over a few days or a few weeks. This is an ongoing struggle until we see Palestinians be able to live in peace in their own land, from the river to the sea. I know I'm getting myself into troubles. We mean from the river to the sea, that the land of Palestine will be living justice, because we have an apartheid regime. These are not my words. These are Jimmy Carter, said that in one of his interviews, that the state of Israel is an apartheid regime. Guterres said it, that we need to go back and understand what's the history. So we're not, making things up. We're not, saying we're prejudiced. What we're asking for and calling for justice, international laws, and the United Nations resolutions to be applied. With this, inshallah, I can say Jazakumullah khairan for your time and for giving me the time, to take. Yes, Uncle, go ahead. I'm sorry, Uncle.
Boycotting their stuff.
Boycotting, exactly. Yes, I'm sorry, forget that. This is probably number 6. Boycott. It's not gonna make you, lose anything if you boycott corporations who brag about supporting the killing of innocent civilians. There's no justification whatsoever to the number of civilians who have been killed in Gaza. No justification, whatever it is. So may Allah Azza wa Jalla, inshallah, give us the strength to be able to stand for truth and apply the truth and advocate for the truth in our life. Allahumma ameen. With this, inshallah, I'll stop, unless otherwise anybody else would like to add something or to comment on something. I'll leave it to the organizers of the event, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Unless you want me to stay until Fajr, that's a different story. I can do it because I'm an imam. So yes, go ahead, please.
We just write E-4649. That's the petition for everyone.
Yeah, please, yes. Maybe we can have it written here. If someone can write it down, please. You want to write the petition, whatever, link. What is it, sister, again?
So there's actually 2 to sign. One is to the Prime Minister, E dash.
Okay. Maybe if you send it to the organizers, they can post it on their social media or their website, or their, Instagram, I believe. You guys are now, okay, yeah. So here we go. We have something. Inshallah, we can write it down. So Jazakumullah khair from my side, and then inshallah, I'll leave it to the organizers to see what they need to do from there. Inshallah. Alaikum inshallah. Alaikum inshallah. Alaikum Allah inshallah. Barakallahu fikum.